Hi, this is Keith Scott. Welcome to Marshall Business Solutions. Our video today is going to be discussing the new business landscape. Now, the new business landscape, what it's talking about is the fact that the world has changed forever. We have a new economy, and as a result, we have to have a new way of doing things. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about how the world has changed really quick, give you a fast overview, and then after that, we're going to go over action steps about exactly what you need to do with your martial arts school to change and adapt for the new economy. Now, home values have plummeted. They went down at least 20% in most areas. Some places have been hit, it's been 40%. It's predicted that this next year that home prices are going to go down another 10 to 20% in some areas. Now, also the world has changed because oil prices are still bouncing around, but generally speaking, they're still rising. We also have food prices are increasing. A lot of economists are really worried that we're about to have some serious inflation when it comes to food. And the main reason for this is the fact that the price of corn is going up, and a lot of there's over 4,000 products in U.S. grocery stores that have corn in them, or the animals that make the products, they're fed with corn. So corn prices and food prices are going to be going up. Europe, the European countries are starting to do bailouts. It's been a chain of countries just over and over. It's Greece, Ireland, different people are getting bailed out. Also, the banks are still really slow to make loans. That means it's going to be harder to get business loans, harder to start new businesses. It's going to be harder to expand business, harder to renovate businesses. So banks are still very slow to make loans right now. Also, cities are starting to go bankrupt. So, never seen this happen before in my lifetime. We have cities in the United States that are actually filing bankrupts against their debt, and there's even countries that are going bankrupt. Now, the state of California is very close to going bankrupt as well, and the state of California's economy, it's bigger than a lot of economies for individual countries. It's so huge. Now, governments are in debt across the globe. They're starting to pull back services. One big example is they're starting to raise the retirement age, so people have to wait a couple of extra years to retire. Also, they're raising taxes on their citizens. People are truly scared. Doesn't mean that they're in fear all day, every day, and all night. Now, some of them are, of course, but people are just worried. They're not spending money as much. You can see this. There's been riots in the United Kingdom. I know that several of y'all probably saw the news recently where the prince and his fiancée were recently mobbed when they were in their car. So that kind of stuff just does not happen there in England. There's been riots in Greece when they said they were going to raise the retirement age. There have been riots in France for months as well. And in the U.S., people are acting out in a different way. They're just still not spending money as much as they were. Quickly, I'm going to review some of the unemployment numbers, and then we're going to dive into the details and what you need to do at your martial arts school. The official unemployment numbers in the U.S. are right around 10%. Just, it's hovering or dancing around that number. But the real number is closer to 17% of people are unemployed. Because what happens is once someone has been looking for a job for so long that then they stop looking, they don't consider them unemployed because they're not trying to look for a job anymore, which is insane. But then also what happens is there's just a whole group of people that are underemployed. What underemployed means is that they want to work full-time, they need to work full-time, but they can't get a full-time job right now. So they're underemployed. So the real unemployment rate is closer to 17%. In some areas in the U.S., it's really 20%. So it's going to be that way for a while. It's going to be a very slow-going recovery. It's going to take 3 to 5 more years. Now, benefits, unemployment benefits just got extended again by the federal government. Some people can be out of work for 3 years and still get paid unemployment benefits. That's good that they're going to get paid that, but it's bad because that means that people aren't finding a job for 3 years. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to go over what this means. This is going to be an outline of the rest of the discussion today, and then we'll go into very detailed action steps for your martial arts school. First, you must adapt. You got to do things differently. Next, you want to improve your staff, so you have to be better. You have to give more options. Give more options to people. We also want to provide better service, a better level of customer service. We need to add more value to our school and to our programs. And we want to identify new markets. If the market you're in is shrinking, then you have to look outside of your market for new markets. We also need to do free stuff. We got to give back to our customers. Some of our money we would normally spend on marketing for new students, we need to spend on marketing to keep our students happy. And then we want to create a cult-like following, or a religious type following almost. I'll explain that in just a second. Now, let's dive into you must adapt and go over some specific action steps for you. So you must adapt. You may need to lower your prices. So if home prices have went way down in your area, if they've rolled back to like 5 years ago rates, well, maybe you need to roll your rates back for 5 years, or to 3 years ago, or 2 years ago. You may need to roll your rates back, or maybe it means that you just don't increase your rates right now. We want to monitor our sign-up rate. Monitor your sign-up rate. Your sign-up rate needs to be at 80% or higher. If it's not at 80% or higher, you may need to adjust your class schedules, you may need to adjust your prices, your sales techniques, your marketing plan. There's all kinds of things that you may need to adjust. But we may need to adjust some things if your sign-up rate isn't at least 80%. So your sign-up rate, that is when someone calls, 80% of your people should set an appointment. Whenever someone sets an appointment, 80% or more should show up. Whenever somebody shows up for their appointment, 80% or more of them should actually end up enrolling. So that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about our sign-up rates. Now, also talking about adapting, should you use contracts or not contracts? I'm a very, very firm believer, everybody, in using contracts for your martial arts school. Very firm believer. But you may need to adapt. So maybe you still do contracts, but you're going to offer some cancellation clauses that you didn't offer before. If you haven't used contracts in the past, you really, really need to start using them, because a huge part of your student base could just leave overnight. So there's a lot of martial arts schools that weren't using contracts that are out of business right now once the economy took a downturn. How about automatic payments? Are you going to require people to give you their checking account information or credit card information? So I recommend doing that so that you can get a higher percentage of your people paying automatically. But maybe you need to offer different options. Maybe they give credit card on file, but they can come in and pay you cash or check. If they don't end up paying, then you charge their credit card. So there's different options, there's different ways to do it. How about the length of your programs? Again, it's proven over and over and over that if you do longer term contracts, 12-month contracts for a basic course, you're going to have a better, healthier, long-term program in school. So, but you may need to do, a shorter program. You may need to do 6-month programs. I really don't like to do anything less than that. I want to stay with the 12-month programs, but we may need to adapt your programs for the new economy. And then upgrades. I know that a lot of the karate and taekwondo type schools require people to, after the basic program, they require them to upgrade into Black Belt Club or whatever you call it at your martial arts school in order to continue. Are you still going to do that or not? Maybe people are a little leery about committing for 3 years or whatever your program is. And you know what? If you're a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school or a mixed martial arts school or anybody that doesn't have upgrade programs, you got to implement those upgrade programs, but you got to implement proper upgrade programs. An upgrade program isn't still doing it for the same length and the same amount of money. You got to charge people more money, add more value, and get them to make a commitment for a longer time period. Now, improve your staff. Let's move on to the next point. Improve your staff. It's at this time when we're struggling that you have to invest in your education. Your education and the education of your staff. That's one of the things that we do here at MBS. Obviously, we have training videos for you, whether it's with us, whether it's with someone else in the martial arts industry, or if it's someone outside the martial arts industry. You got to get more education. Your staff has to be better and more educated than your competition. Okay? Not just other martial arts schools in your area, the other dance schools, the other gymnastics schools, the baseball field, the football field, all the competition for kids. But then you got to be sharper. If you have an adult program, you got to be sharper than the gyms in your area. So you have to be better. So that means you have to be more trained. So you have to become better at marketing. When you're looking at getting trained, that's one of the things you really need to train on, is you got to get better at attracting customers. Businesses are going to be fighting for customers. You also need to polish up on your sales techniques. So you got to get better at enrolling people. The leads, the new students, are probably going to become fewer and far between. So you're going to have to get better at attracting them. But when you attract them, you got to get better on closing the sale and signing them up. And the way you do this is you go out and you got to practice, drill, and rehearse. You don't just watch a video one time. You watch the video, you talk about it with your team, you have a team meeting, and then you go over it and over and over and exactly. It's not about how much information you can get and then don't implement. It doesn't matter how much info you get. What matters is how much you implement. So you got to implement stuff. Again, improve your staff. You got to become better at teaching classes. You have to become better at teaching classes. So think about it. Are you really good at teaching class? I mean, we all think we're good at teaching class, but everybody can't be good at teaching class. But the instructor obviously thinks he's good, but maybe it's not good for the students. So I apologize for this example, but it's the best example I know. It's kind of like teaching and sex are like the same thing. Everybody thinks they're good at sex, but everybody can't be good at having sex. So, I mean, it's definitely good for the person that's bad at it, but is it good for the other person? Not really. So that's the best example I can give to make you go, oh my gosh. You know, you got to sit there and go, all right, am I really good at teaching class? You got to get educated. I don't mean on what you teach, okay? It's not necessarily what you teach, it's how you teach it, okay? So it's not about do you do a punch this way or that way, but how do you explain it to people? How do you motivate them? What level of quality do you man? So that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about improving your teaching capabilities. And maybe it's not you, maybe you're a great instructor, maybe it's your assistant instructors that are below you. We want to give people more options. Give people more options. So provide more payment options. You know, let them pay different ways. Let them pay in full, let them pay with credit card, check, cash, you know, whatever. But you got to provide more options for people. Offer more programs at your school. You may need to do cardio kickboxing. You may need to do MMA. You may need to do after school. You may need to do all kind of things to have enough programs and enough income to sustain business right now. And have more flexible class times. If you're only offering one or two classes a week for certain programs, you may need to step up. You might need to work more hours, teach more classes. People may need 4, 5, 6 options throughout the week to come to. Provide a higher level or a better level of service. So maybe you want to offer online classes or online curriculum for your students to watch if they are having trouble coming to classes. You can do homework sheets so that people can practice at home, so if they can't come to class they can still earn class credit in some way. So home workouts, they'll equal a class credit. You can also offer a better level of service by offering free extra help classes. So if somebody is behind in their curriculum and they're not ready to test, offer free private lessons. I don't mean like a full hour-long private lesson, just like little 15-minute private lessons. Those can be with you, or those can be with an assistant instructor. You can also be more attentive to your customers' needs. So make sure you're doing a really good job of listening, and if there's something that they need and want, then you got to make sure that you provide that. I don't know what that's going to be. You've got to listen to your people. Add more value to your kids' program. Add more value to your kids' program. So implement a promises system. So implement a promises system. What that means is you got to deliver on the promises that you said you were going to deliver on. So we tell people we're going to change their lives, teach these mental benefits and all this stuff. Well, we got to make sure we have a system in place to implement it. So you should teach life lessons. So whether you come up with your own life lessons or whether you get them from somewhere else, MBS, Marshall Business Solutions, we have life lesson worksheets that are part of one of our membership programs that you can get. And this is just a way for you to have a word of the month: confidence, focus, discipline. Whether it's kids or whether it's adults, you need to have a program where you're teaching these kind of character development traits to kids and adults alike. I don't care what kind of martial arts program and what style you teach, you should definitely be teaching that stuff to everyone.